Hi there.
Welcome to Town Hall Overwatch, your weekly podcast for all your news, esports, and more. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Town Hall Overwatch. It has been too long since we've had a show, but we are finally back here with, I don't know if it's episode 17 or 18. I think it is episode 17. I might have gotten it right for once in my life here on the show. And we've got a lot to talk about. Once more, we've got Joshy, Spo, and Unctious. And guys, it's been a while. What's new, Joshy?
Well, for me, I've just been casting everything I possibly can. August was kind of crazy. I was gone for like 3 weekends in London for the Face It and E-League Overwatch Open qualifiers and then playoffs, and that was a lot of fun. Of course, that was my first international casting gig after 6 years of being in esports, so it was pretty awesome to check that box off. And then since then, I've also been doing the Alienware monthly melee for August at the end of August, and then Lenovo Cup this last Friday, Ghost of Gamers weeklies on the weekends. I'm doing Lenovo Cup again tomorrow, I believe. So just grabbing up all the casting gigs. Oh, actually, ESL King of the Hill, first time casting at Burbank as well was last week. So just making my rounds and casting whatever comes my way.
That's great, man. Actually, I need to ask you. I mean, I don't think I told any of you guys this, but we just changed our honeymoon from Tokyo to London. So you got to give me the deets onto if you found any good spots, where do we go?
Dude, you've played King's Row. You know what's
there.
I
was going to say, the Mondata statue, there's a pub nearby. There's a bookstore. It's very cute in the streets behind the statue there. But no, I didn't really actually go do much sightseeing. It was a lot of hotel and then studio because we were doing Europe and NA, both regions every single day. So there were days where we were casting 10 BO5s over the course of like 12 hours. Yeah. So I actually didn't get to do much sightseeing. I did manage to lose some money at the Hippodrome Casino in central London. So if you want to go, casinos are a little bit different in London because the gambling age is 18. So you have serious gamblers on one side and like droves of teenage drinking parties on the other side, and they just kind of clash in a weird way that I wasn't expecting. But it was interesting. You can check it out.
Awesome. Well, okay, I guess I'll have to do my Google research. Spo, how you been, man? What's new?
I've been doing well so far. I missed the show, man.
Yeah.
So now that we're back, feeling a lot better. I feel a bit energized, I've been just playing with the new team so far. Things have been going pretty well so far, I think. And I've also been working on the part 2 of the map callouts that I did a while back. I never ended up finishing them, and I decided that it's probably about time to do that. I got reinvigorated.
That's awesome. I mean, if you guys never saw the initial map callouts, I guess, article that you put out, that was mega insightful and helpful because it's not just like a text wall or it's not just like a video with talking. It's a lot of effort put into color coding everything, and it's digestible, which is fantastic. So props on that. I'm looking forward to it. You gonna do Eichenwald everything?
I'm gonna hold off on Eichenwald, I think, for a little bit. It depends on how much time it takes, because I want to try to get it done by the end of the month. That's the rough deadline, I guess.
Okay.
So it might be like a week after that or something, but it'll be within the next, I'd say, probably 3 to 4 weeks. But Eichenwald, they might change it. They changed Anubis once.
That's true.
Because of the they're just too choky. I guess
Okay.
It's too hard to assault. So maybe they'll do the same with Eichenwald 0.1. Who knows? Maybe they'll keep it as is, but I want to give them a little bit of time. Then if they're satisfied with the map layout or it doesn't change, and I'll just complete it, I guess.
Uncle Unctious, you're a man that has been dragon boating, wall climbing, and now wakeboarding.
Oh yeah, sports for days. So I recently got back from Florida. I was there for some family stuff. my life was kind of on hold for like a week or so, but I'm back, and that feels pretty awesome. Been staying active, getting back to grad school applications and stuff like that. So it's been super, super busy, and I haven't had too much time to relax. But it's better to be busy than to be doing nothing. And you know that better than anyone, Jake, right? Like, you're nonstop doing shit.
Oh, man. Well, half the reason why we haven't had a show in a few weeks is I just got back from PAX West. I was casting Heroes there, the last NA regional of the year. Really, really amazing event. I mean, if you guys have never been to a PAX, they're all fantastic. Well, I've been to East and West. I've never been to South or Australia. But really, really just amazing atmosphere at those tournaments. And I had a blast. I got to meet the devs of Chivalry when I was out there. I don't know if you guys have ever played. I know, Josh, you were making fun of me. You were like, Jake, you're like 4 years too late. But I've been so obsessed with that game.
For the order!
Yeah, exactly. For Agatha, really. But, that's all up to you. But anyways, they have a new game coming out, and the devs are hooking me up with beta for it. And it's like, it was super fun. Like, that was honestly probably one of the most...
What's the game?
It's called Mirage. It's basically a new Chivalry. It's actually kind of Overwatch in the sense there are full classes, and the classes have special abilities. So it's almost like Chivalry meets Overwatch in a way.
It's like on the real battlefield. Just like, each of the guys has a special ability that they pull out in the middle of their battles.
Well, it's a little different, though, in the grand scheme of things, because, like, the range class can like teleport, and they have like a pushback, so they can use that pushback to double jump if they're like airborne. There's like definitely a higher skill cap in that game as well. But I don't even remember the last time the show happened. Like, did I even have Arcane 8 launched publicly when we did our last TownHall Overwatch? Because
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, because Arcane 8, I've launched Arcane8.com, and actually TownHall Overwatch now exists on the Arcane 8 YouTube channel, because that's basically going to be the overarching brand for everything I create when it comes to tournaments. We launched our first Heroes of the Storm series. The prize pool is already over $9,000 purely from crowdfunding. It's the largest crowdfunded event.
How big is it?
$9,160.
It's over 9,000?
Yeah, it's over 9,000. I've been avoiding saying that for whatever reason. But yeah, no, it's actually amazing the way that's going, and we're flying out like 3 other casters this weekend. Unctuous is coming down, Kubi's driving down, we've got our admin driving in, and that's going to be amazing. And we're looking to replicate exactly that for Overwatch in the near future. Probably won't be till early 2017, because we want to make sure we do it right and we do it well, and we make it like so it's something that stands out and is unique in the Overwatch space. Because I feel that there is room for that. Because I mean, we see this. Joshy worked in London in the studio environment, right? That's very professional, very high, level of execution. And I think once Overwatch has the functionality of maybe observer slaving, where I can have an observer remotely, or a few tweaks, like it's going to make the online style event much more capable, where you just bring talent in, and that's kind of the goal there. But without further delay, guys, we've got a lot to catch up on. Since we haven't had a show in a few weeks, Eichenwald has come out. We have Season 2 in play, and I haven't even touched my placement matches, I'll be honest with you. But that has obviously reset it so that the ranking is been completely flipped on its head, and it's much closer to a true MMR with our new ranking system. We have the Overwatch World Cup, where all the European qualifiers have happened. We know who will be playing, and then all the teams have been formed for the other regions like US, Canada, and so on and so forth. And then Blizzard has updated us on the high bandwidth and the way they're approaching that, as they constantly strive to improve netcode. So we'll be talking about all of that, but let's open up with Eichenwald. And Spo, I'm going straight to you, man. How do you feel about this map?
I have mixed thoughts about it. It kind of the map itself kind of reminds me of a mix of, I would say, if you ever played Day of Defeat, and you guys, all right. Well, there's a map called Avalanche.
Yeah,
that it reminds me of. So if there are any Day of Defeat players out there, it reminds me of kind of a mix between that and probably Cobblestone from CS.
Huh.
That's what the map kind of reminds me of. I like some of the layout. I just think that some of it's, like, for example, the first point, there's just that that choke is a little bit, maybe it's too harsh. I don't know. I feel like there should be one extra route to get in, but maybe.
I've played it like a handful of times, and I haven't been in a game where anybody has captured the first point. It hasn't happened.
You guys are crazy.
It hasn't fucking happened.
First point isn't as bad.
Pharah,
it's the third point. Yeah, you can get over the house on the left with Pharah and Genji. So that's nice. You can actually flank there. That's kind of nice, but.
So on the SPO scale of 2 thumbs up to 2 thumbs down, where does it sit?
I'd say it needs a little bit of work, but it's not even the first point that needs to work. It's the third, I think. The third is just I think it's too hard. I think it's too difficult to take, honestly.
Jake's
the
flying
spawn's
around.
a little bit too close, and I believe that the
spawn is
the
too
way
close
it's
for
designed.
defense, you mean? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is the first point. I
feels like old Hollywood before they changed it.
Yeah.
It kind of, definitely. It is definitely a choke. Like this is the 1 point of entry, and there's these side rooms you can come in
Jake,
through.
fly to your left a bit, as you're coming from the attacker spawn.
Oh, from over here.
Okay. Now turn around. Sorry, I'm trying to point out the house on the left side that you can jump over as Pharah, Winston, Genji,
to the left of the bridge over there.
Diva, the broken down one. Yeah, so
that one right there.
that screwed up roof there. That actually lets something like 7 or 8 different characters go over the top of it and slide down the rooftop toward essentially the back of the choke. So Genji, Winston, and Pharah are all very effective at using this area. I would say Hanzo can get over, but it's kind of tricky and not as effective. So usually you just want Hanzo in the front. But if they've got a Mei and Reinhardt and Zarya just blocking up that choke, just switch like 2 or 3 people to people who can jump, and it makes it a lot easier. The third point really is the tricky point that Spo's describing, because there are only 2 very, very tight doorways. And the defense has such a short run back that if they kill anyone on the offense, it's very, very hard to actually break through here. And a lot of games actually end right at this first corner after this door.
Yeah, as you're mentioning, I mean, these small doorways.
That's all there is.
Are really, really tough. Almost no one can go through this window. The way it's designed, like Hanzo can't even climb up this because it breaks when it opens, I believe. Isn't there like a little ledge?
No, this wooden door gets broken down by the battering ram, and then an iron door drops instead, but there's still a hole in it there.
The hole's still there, but there's a small lip underneath this. Right, they can go through, but like Hanzo and Genji cannot climb through it if they were to just try to scale the wall.
Right.
So that makes it limited as to who can even get up there through that little window. And even this, if you make it all the way through that room, obviously that's like the really hard point. I find that if you can set up with the Bastion and then just launch your Diva, your Tracer, whatever out, just keep funneling people out, you can continue contesting pretty easily.
Yeah, and Mei is very prevalent here. I'll just across this entire map, and she's a god in this room because her Blizzard is inescapable.
Are there good defense points all along the way? Like, are there good spots to pivot if people are flanking and shit? Like on that first point, you were talking about breaking the first point. Is there a good spot that the defensive team can chill out just to pivot backwards in case they get flanked in that way?
So, kind of, yeah, Jake. If you move to, it's hard to describe. Stop moving first.
Okay. All right.
All right, and now turn around 180. Okay, now fly down. So this is that first choke.
Yep.
If you back up a little bit toward the right, essentially McCree and Reaper can sit near this broken down Bastion. Yeah, so this is basically the only point where you get a view of that full choke and the rooftop where people can come over. So if you've got long range characters like Hanzo, for example, on defense, he can sit right here.
This is where I cheese on Hanzo every game. This is
basically the
here.
best spot for defense for a long range character, because you can see both entry points easily.
Yeah, it's pretty useful. Did they change the Observer client?
They've made slight changes, but what specifically?
Well, I'm locked onto this unit, and I'm like,
press space.
No, you can do that. Yeah, it's a spacebar. That's been in the game forever.
I guess I've never locked onto a turret. That's why it seems so weird to me. But yeah, I mean that's definitely a tough point to break. And Unctious was saying, he literally has never even made it through that point. So obviously he's not the only user like that. I think my first 3 games were that same story, where either I held that point or the team didn't break through it. And after that, I managed to get a full. Actually, I think we rolled our next game after that. But it's a cool map, though. Just in terms of style, it's absolutely gorgeous. Everything about it.
Yeah.
It's like this
P-sports indeed.
Pretty sports.
Actually.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're back
look,
onto the pretty sports.
that's a big tank. And those fields are made for
necessary,
soccer.
man.
Like, they play soccer in those fields. Bastion, the real Bastion, was sleeping in those forests. If you guys haven't seen that cutscene, really, really cool. I mean, they do such a good job with their cinematics. And then there's that city that he marches towards in the cutscene at the end, and it ends up. Well, I'm not going to spoil it.
Nice guy.
Overall, though, this map is a bit more defensive oriented, I think, than the others. And so, like, all the defensive characters, Mei, Junkrat, Hanzo specifically, are really good here. Torb actually has some turret spots that you can kind of have cover from. You can have cover from like brush and stuff up on the bridge. There's like a extremely annoying Torb spot on the second stretch that is very hard for a lot of characters to even get to. Right, yeah, fly toward that bridge. You see the ivy covering it on the left a little bit.
You talking about this?
Right there, that bush. Yeah, specifically, Torb turret right in that bush is incredibly infuriating to try and take down. If you have 2 or 3 people up on the high ground blocking people from getting to it, it can be really hard to take out.
Wow.
Now, do you have your setting? What are your settings on? Out of curiosity, Jake?
I guess if you're on lowest settings and you turn
You don't
textures
see
way
'em.
down, you don't. Yeah, there's no bush there. So that's actually the same for Hollywood A, where Symmetra turrets are very commonly placed in bushes and
Yep.
stuff. You can remove that clutter
Ilios
as well. Yep.
removes them as
Restart
well.
is required. Ain't got time for that.
Right.
Not always.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's pretty cool.
I think it's the model detail, isn't it?
Probably.
I'm not sure specifically.
The model
yeah.
or texture detail that you put on low, and then you can remove the bushes.
I gotta tell my girlfriend that.
What?
Oh,
Just gotta-
Jesus. You gotta turn the model and texture
Just
detail
turn the-
down
Molly,
to
yeah.
trim the bushes. The struggle. There's a lot of like little cool things here, like this little river of death that you can fall down into. But that's just like a neat little thing. Like,
And
you can come down here as Farah, and then you can go.
That bridge is really fun to play as Farah, specifically to knock people off, or Winston. Winston knocking people off is hilarious on this area.
You just go
I am
full grape it.
surprised that someone hasn't complained on Reddit yet about there not being a splash when you fall off the edge. You know, one of those
Because you just
immersion
fall and
things.
disappear.
Yeah, you just fall and disappear. The same thing happens on the Lijiang Tower.
That's because
on
they
the
don't
garden phase.
want ragdoll corpses falling to their deaths because they're afraid of what people will do with them, basically. So all the pits, you just disappear. There's like, I want to say Ilios Well is the only one where the body actually hits the ground.
Is it
Interesting.
in Sanctum as well, or no?
I don't think you hit the bottom of Sanctum.
No, I guess not. Because I remember I remember seeing a video where there was a Reaper that was able to actually teleport down there somehow.
Yeah.
He actually teleported down under the wherever the death area would be.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to
he
say
was just stuck
Lijiang
down
Tower.
there.
Yeah, Lijiang Tower had a bunch of wonky spots like that until they patched it.
Did you see this esports action? Like, these
Yeah, man,
teams
bots are
going
really good.
at it.
Okay, so is that enough about Eichenwald? We've seen a few competitive matches here, and Widowmaker actually comes out on defense from time to time, so that's been exciting. But other than that, it's just a really rough third spot to try to attack into. But with like the time bank system and everything now, I feel like it's okay to have a defensive-oriented map, and maybe some teams will actually excel at it and actually have a reason to, try to pick it.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
And that's
think
also
about that.
a good segue. Oh, Josh, he's so smart. Time Bank versus Stopwatch. Now, we're into Season 2, and Blizzard really seems to be embracing Time Bank. Like, this is their golden child. They're shoving it down everyone's throat. Unctuous as someone who plays a lot of Overwatch, you grind the competitive here and there. How do you feel about the Time Bank?
All right. So last time we talked about it, Spo brought up a really good point about Time Bank in competitive for 2CP maps. And I think that it was a really valuable point about how 2CP can be super snowbally. And for that reason alone, it's good to have that extra, to have that time. It gives you a second chance, basically, to kind of get your defenses up and replay and see who can actually make the most benefit out of their time bank, which I think is really, really interesting. But I still find it really frustrating and not satisfying to play at all. Like, I don't think it's enjoyable. Like, I think that there's a problem there in and of itself. And the other thing to bring up about Stopwatch in particular on payload maps, I was talking to Kubi. Some of you might know Kubi. And he was saying that from a design perspective, there's just a problem with payload maps trying to demonstrate where your payload needs to be and when it needs to be there. Like, how do you show the team that's pushing where would you put a ghost, basically like a ghost payload there to show you whether or not you have enough time to even make it to the end of an area?
Are you talking about like in Mario Kart when you see like the ghost of the fastest time?
He was saying it's just a visual problem. Like, it's hard from an observer point of view, and it's hard from like when you're actually playing.
Well, they leave a big golden parking spot on the map.
But he's not talking about that scenario. Sometimes it's like you just can't tell if you have enough time to get from where you are to the end of, the map in time to actually win, stuff like that. Like, there's scenarios like that are problematic. And when during a cast, you can look at somebody like Joshi, who's very, very knowledgeable about all of those things and who can like call it out, but it's just not necessarily intuitive to people playing and to people watching. And that's another problem with stopwatch that I think is interesting. Because from my point of view, it seemed like Blizzard was trying to stop some sort of experience or give people an experience during the game that lets them not feel like they're getting steamrolled all the time. Like, you kind of have a second chance to try again if you wanted to do something time bank.
It's like the old BO1 problem, basically. Best of one is never satisfying because it's like one mistake essentially can lose a series. And that's what, time bank helps that a little bit. But honestly, like, if you get brutalized, it's likely, that you didn't deserve to win that map. Even if you flip sides and suddenly happen to push a long way in overtime.
You're probably just going to feel like
earn
shit
that win?
longer.
I don't know. Yeah, it's strange. Yeah, right. And that's the other thing is like they finish with 4 minutes left. You finish with 1 minute left. It's like, well, this is quite a daunting task, but we have to play this map for 10 more minutes essentially to find out if we could win.
So I guess what I'm saying is that over time, I'm seeing more and more of the benefit of something like time bank, but still like along the edge.
It's like, yeah, go ahead, Spo. I'm curious.
I'll say from a spectator point of view, I think it might make matches a little bit more interesting, opposed to a stopwatch. Because a lot of the matches I would say a lot of the matches, but often a lot of the rounds will go into overtime. So it gets an interesting dynamic, and sometimes you get some really nice last pushes where a team might take 2 points or even the whole map with just a little bit of time left, and it makes for an interesting viewing experience. So I think a lot of pros would, and including myself, probably would like stopwatch on the payload maps and stuff. But I think the time bank is definitely great for 2CP. I think it works well there, and I think it still does work for the stop. I think it still does work for the payload maps as well. Yeah, for sure.
Actually, Spo, so you're like our competitive nerd, like here, like you're around people all the time. You're thinking and talking and imagining things about competitive. Have you guys come up or even talked about the idea of better systems for this kind of a thing? Or are these like the only two that you've ever thought about?
The better system is stopwatch.
There have definitely been a lot of talks, and that dates all the way back to Beta 1 when stopwatch first kind of came in. And there have been a lot of different suggestions, and there have been other systems that have been tried. Like there were, I think at one of the first lands at the
Esports Arena did the
Esports Arena, yeah. They used a point system there too.
I hated that.
They tried that out. That wasn't very popular. It was kind of confusing.
Is there a consensus on your team about how you feel? Like, is this, so you're like 2CP standpoint on like time bank, for instance, is that like a SPO exclusive, or is that like kind of a consensus among your team and your group of players?
No, that's more of the pro scene kind of likes, a lot of the pro players like, and teams like that. Like they like the time bank on the 2CP maps. That actually makes them more playable because a lot of so before time bank came in for 2CP, 2CP was not very well received because of that, because a lot of the matches would be over because it was stopwatch back then. So they had you could have anywhere from, you could literally have a minute, so a team finishing in about a minute and a half or 2 minutes, and then the other team has to do that, and sometimes it was a little bit too quick. It felt a little bit cheesy too, because you got you caught off guard or whatever. It would be over like that. It was essentially two team fight. Yeah, it's 2 team fights, and that was it. You're done. And a lot of times in the on payload maps too, if you're to think about 2 team fights in a payload map, right? That's pretty much 1 checkpoint. So it's like, okay, well it's a lot shorter. And 2 team fights isn't even like a round in cost. So it's like, it just seemed like there needed to be a little something more. And I think the maps, 2CP maps in general, before felt like maybe it's just kind of the way teams have been able to play it, but back in beta, it seemed like a lot of teams were finishing it a lot quicker than they are now. Now you actually see some more teams stalling for a lot longer. The games aren't as quick, and I think that maybe teams and players have just adapted to just the 2CP maps in general. Maybe they've just gotten used to it, better strats. I don't know. It just seems like the matches aren't as quick as they used to be. So
I'm going to ask something that's like a little bit more vague and maybe a little bit more abstract. So
sure.
Yeah, but do you feel like there's any kinds of like FPS gameplay that you don't see coming out of Overwatch, maybe related to these two things, maybe related to time bank and stopwatch, that you would like to see more of in the game? Like in general, is there like a certain style of gameplay that isn't getting brought out because these are like the only methods of us like deciding who wins a map? Like this is like kind of abstract in my head, but
I would say Capture the Flag comes to mind for that, as far as like a different play style of FPS, which Capture the Flag is what I played as a flag runner. It's completely different than what we have, today, pushing payloads and control maps. Control maps are deathmatch. Payloads are isolated deathmatch to wherever the payload or point happens to be. But Capture the Flag is completely different because you're using all areas of the map essentially at all times. If I have the enemy flag and they have ours, it turns into a long stalemate where you use the terrain of the entire area rather than just the street or just these few flanking areas, something like that. But I would say, I don't know if that's what you're looking for out of that.
Yeah, no, I think that's
what
a fine
comes to mind
answer
for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and I'm not even sure that Overwatch lends itself to that kind of play at all, because Overwatch tends to be sort of about being quicker. And if it turns into
Josh, he had come up with a really good idea we talked about in a previous show, which is Capture the Mech, where you literally
I didn't come up with that.
Okay. Well, you brought it up.
I do like it. I do like it though.
Where you climb into a mech and you're restricted from your kit, so like that's something your team would have to coordinate around. But
interesting.
Spo, how about you? Any ideas of like things that you feel other shooters have that Overwatch it might be missing in terms of like what we have in terms of the play modes?
I think in play modes, Capture the Flag is probably the most common one. It's not something I've really thought about too much, honestly. So maybe I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. It was just something that I was thinking about.
Capture the Flag is the one that comes to mind for me too. So that was.
I mean, yeah, I know I played a lot of Halo as a kid, and like I loved CTF. I mean, I really did. I guess like the other thing we don't have in Overwatch, which doesn't necessarily make sense or even needed is like power ups on the map, right? There's no
timers and stuff.
Yeah, there's no kind of like controlling a part of the map for the benefit of getting a rocket launcher or for the benefit of getting additional shields. And maybe like movement speed or shields and stuff could be compelling, and then strategically giving the movement speed to like your Genji player, and that Genji player is then like ridiculous. Who knows? But like that, like then you have to figure out what is the actual map type, right? Putting that in a payload could create these ridiculous timing attacks that become almost unstoppable. And then Slayer, I don't know if the idea of a Slayer, just team deathmatch, even makes sense.
Not as much
for Overwatch.
But one Domination, I feel like still could fit in, and that when I played, Call of Duty 10 years ago, it feels like now, but Domination was a mode that I actually really liked, where you've got A, B, and C, and the teams are big enough in Overwatch 6v6 where you could actually have 3 different points on the map active at all times that you fight over, and have revolving spawn points based on which you control and which you don't. I think any of the maps, like if they end up ditching Assault for future maps, I think like Hanamura, picture Hanamura A and B, but both caps are active at all times, and there's like 4 or 5 different spawn areas that you could spawn at depending on which ones your team controls. What do you think of that?
My brain is too feeble to handle it, but I love it. That's sick.
Yeah, so that's a way they could salvage these smaller maps, I feel like, if Assault generally is like unloved overall, but I don't know. It does take a lot of work to create new modes. I would just love to see them over time.
While we're on this talking point, before we get back to just kind of time bank versus stopwatch to talk about it a little bit more, I'm just going to go completely off the rails and say, what's on, if you guys had to have the wish list for one thing at BlizzCon, what is it?
A tournament with a prize pool.
No, it's stats.
Okay, you want like scoreboard?
Yeah, I want anything as a caster that can help me actually tell the story of what the hell happened in that game, because right now it's very difficult.
Unctuous wants a real tournament.
I'm sure we'll get that. Like that's like, I shouldn't have to wish for that.
Yeah, I was thinking more like in-game features.
Yeah, I know what you meant. I was being
Overwatch World Cup doesn't count.
Not today.
Anything, Spo?
Out of game, maybe the announcement of an Overwatch League would be nice. In game, I have to go with either a scoreboard, probably scoreboard. I'll go with that.
Scoreboard.
Replays are like
Or a
another
replay.
super obvious
The
one.
The
But
thing
I
is,
feel like
replays.
stats.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I feel like stats are just, if we can only have one or the other, and we have replays with no stats, then who cares? We need, like, stats are still the number one for me.
I feel like, because Jeff Kaplan said that don't expect the replays by the end of the year, right?
Right.
So I was like, I kind of ruled that out for me. Otherwise, yes, I would be.
Well, you want to make videos, right? You want to be on that.
Yeah, I mean that would be amazing. I mean, replays would be my thing too. That would be my bet. That would be my vote. But since you can't do that, I think scoreboards probably be or stats would be my choice.
Mine's.
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say I want to switch mine to replays too because I think that's a great one, especially because there's so much hidden beauty and going on and what's happening in a match that you don't see like just from one video, just taping it once, from one observer perspective. There's so much extra shit and nuance that you get in there. So yeah, I'm about it. Go ahead, Jake.
For me, it's similar, but in like Josh's wants basically caster functionality. I just want like basically a laundry list of things built into the obs functionality, like observer slaving for online events, stats, just maybe like the ability to create custom UIs. We have that in StarCraft and Heroes, and that's really valuable, I think. So basically enhanced functionality there, because I still think the ops client is suboptimal. Like
Garbo? Would you say Garbo?
Kind of, yeah. Even now, like every time I watch an event, I'm just like, I really wish I could be watching a mini map right now. Whenever there's a lull, whenever a team fight's ended, I just want to like look at the map, get an idea of like the way everything's laid out, so on and so forth. And I constantly feel myself like itching for that as a spectator and as a caster too. But it's been a while since I've cast an event, even myself. More been spectating lately. But yeah, who knows? But yeah, just I guess the general consensus on Time Bank versus Stopwatch. Time Bank, great for 2CP. 2CP still the least favorite map type, I think, for just about anyone. But at least it makes it a little bit better. But for payload, I mean, is this at least a level up for Season 2? Like, do you guys feel that like the payload maps are more digestible right now than they were in the past?
Which one specifically?
Just payloads. With
payload. I mean, payload's fine as it always was. I feel like I don't have any issues watching, or I think we've seen enough payload now that viewers have a rough idea of what's going on, even without the casters. So that's good. The experience is there now.
You don't think like Stopwatch is a necessity at this point?
Stopwatch versus Time Bank, as far as that's concerned, essentially, I feel like we do get different winners from time to time with this system. So, for example, yesterday or Saturday, I cast a match where one team had 2 minutes and 40 seconds left in their time bank. The other team had 1 minute. The 1 minute team ended up pushing a crazy distance in overtime, and the team with more time in their bank lost. And so I'm like, okay, how do I feel about this overall? The team that, when they first played the map, destroyed, ended up losing it. How does that feel as a player? How does it feel as a viewer? Do I feel like it was unfair, or because they dropped the ball on the second time they had to defend, did they deserve the map, or did they deserve to lose that map?
Do you always speak to yourself this way when you're deciding how you feel?
It feels weird because I generally do, because it's like if I need to form an opinion about it and feel confident that I'm able to defend it, I want to look at it from all sides.
That's good. I appreciate that.
At this point, I'm thinking, for a player, if I win and then lose, I feel like shit. As a viewer, it feels almost like they drew the map, like they won the first part and the other team won the second part. So I'm not really satisfied with the comeback team being the winners. I don't know. That's how I feel about it at the moment. And Time Bank also has the weird aspect of, let's say you finish a map with only like 45 seconds left in your Time Bank, the game just gives you 15 seconds when it's your time. Like they go up to a minute basically if you finish with less than a minute. So it's that's another weird wonky thing that I know that Too Easy specifically of FaZe was outspoken against, as Time Bank kind of has strange little nuances like that as well.
That's interesting because like I've never thought about this before, really, but there's no situation where you really feel like there's a comeback that happens. Like, there's no real, like, comebacks that occur in Overwatch because you're never really playing against each other immediately at the same time. Like, because you switch sides, it's turn-based. So comebacks aren't, like, as obvious, and it doesn't feel that way, which is interesting from my perspective as a viewer, because I think back to both Heroes and StarCraft. Like, a lot of times I wouldn't even have loyalty towards a team. I would have loyalty to whoever was behind, because I just wanted to see like cool shit happen. Yeah. So I think it's interesting to bring that up because now Time Bank allows you to have that, which didn't exist.
Yeah,
before.
And if you're a fan of the underdogs, then that example I gave is great because the team with far less time actually ended up winning, and that's like, holy crap, that that could not have happened with Stopwatch, but should it have happened? I don't know. Spo, does that mean anything to you? What I just discussed there?
Yeah. I think it's, like I said, I'm not really opposed to Time Bank. I see the merits of both Stopwatch and Time Bank, but I think Time Bank is probably better for viewership, even if Stopwatch may be a little bit more desirable for actual competitive play. I think it creates that situation where there's an end. I would say there's an end to the game because Stopwatch was never really implemented into the game itself. It was always just done by whatever tournament organizer was doing it. There was always a time to beat on the overlay, but there was no in-game overlay for it. Like in its current state, for Time Bank, there is that end. It goes to overtime, and whether you push it to the point or not, it says round complete, and there's an actual animation for that and stuff, and the round's done, and so on and so forth. But before with Stopwatch, when these games were being casted, it was just and the time's up. The other team wins, and there's no. And the game was still going on, and people are like, "Why are they still in the cart? Why are they letting them push the cart?" And so for either newer viewers or people like that, it was just kind of confusing. Like, wait, isn't the game? They just said the game's over. Why is the game done?
Why are there two timers at all on the screen?
Yeah, why are there two? Yeah, why are there two timers? So it was a little more confusing. Here, it makes for a better, it's a smoother experience.
I will say it's nice not having to run a Stopwatch on your own as a caster now, because Snaz is like a pain in the ass to actually run your own. Yeah, to actually run your own timers and everything is a huge pain. But I'm glad for Time Bank for that. And I will ask the question while we're still on this like format topic. Something that's kind of weird to me still is something that actually just happened in the Lenovo Cup today. They had a draw on Assault where it was like 3-3. They both like full held the second point on the second round. And the draw for our tournaments that we're running, Gosu Gamers and Lenovo and all that, there's no satisfying draw anymore. There's no like Assault, sudden death, anything in the game. And what we're doing to compromise now for draws is to take it to a different map and do like a BO3 on Ilios or a different control map. And that's something that, there's no coin flip anymore. But it's still a hassle now for us to determine a satisfactory winner. And that's a problem in tournaments because it artificially inflates the length of matches. You are then using a control map to determine who won an Assault map and stuff like that. And
what if Overwatch is actually just the soccer of esports, where we just have ties like all the time and just let it be? Just like shake hands at the end of the game.
It's hard to run tournaments with ties. Like, it really is.
Joshy, I think we need to take one of your ideas again for the draws, where you have the May referee and you have the carries or like the McCree players on either side. Explain it. It's your idea.
Okay, so it's just high noon. My idea for it was actually like a little tournament, but basically you go into the middle of Hollywood. You've got a May put up an ice wall between the two dueling McCrees. And then once the wall drops, it's free reign. Just fire away, and whoever wins the map. It's like what is it? Trial by champion or something like that.
I love it.
Trial by combat
style. Yeah, trial by combat. There you go.
It's like,
So-
you think about the shootout that happens at the end of soccer when it's all tied up. So like
Multi-game.
basically you do like a shootout between like Farah players or like McCree players, and you incite these like weird rules into it. I can't wait to watch a 1v1 Mercy duel. That sounds really fun.
Lucio Ball.
If
Lucio
you could do
Ball
brawl
type of
modes, you could do a Lucio Ball tiebreaker.
Excellent.
It could
There
be
you
fun.
go.
Good idea.
No ties in Lucio Ball. Someone's always got to win.
I never played an actual game of Lucio Ball because
Lucio Ball was
cheesers,
a lot of fun.
cheesers would pick freaking Torb or Anna or whatever and just ruin every single game. I never got to play all Lucio Ball. I gave up trying.
You just quit. You're like GG.
Too many cheaters. You can't do anything. You get shot and die over and over.
That's
Wait,
true.
what?
In Lucio Ball, there was an exploit where if you were using a controller, you literally would just hold down A as the game was loading, and it would auto pick whoever the random character was instead of Lucio. So
Oh.
you'd get Torbjorns and Symmetras and just whatever random character they happen to get, just run around killing everyone because no one else can shoot. And that happened every time I tried to play it.
Wow,
I
I
never
never
saw
experienced that. Yeah.
I never saw that.
I played a ton when it first came out, like way too much Lucio Ball. I
Is
actually
that patched like quickly?
Yeah, I think it was patched, but I was traveling and stuff, so I just never got a good opportunity to play it.
That's really funny. I had no idea. Man, I want Lucio Ball back. Is it in custom?
No,
No,
I
it's-
feel like it should
it's
be. That'd be
not
really
in the
fun.
game.
That's Blizzard, please.
There's a missed opportunity.
Why are you hurting yourself, Blizzard?
Like,
You could be doing
don't
so
make
much
me
better.
boot up Steam to go play Rocket League. I don't want to do that.
Right? Yeah. I want to boop it with Lucio.
Yeah, it's super fun. Okay, well, I really like your points about the time bank, though. I mean, for me personally, like I'm all about teams just getting crushed by the better team and like it ending quickly.
Right, yeah.
So,
I'm all
like,
about dominance.
There's that because again I come from Melee and you just watch
You
someone get stomped and it's over in like 30 seconds, right? That's game. And
You can tell I'm a play-by-play caster because I just want to scream about shit. Like I want shit to like go crazy.
well, there's that, but like time bank overly it like guarantees like a longer duration on the match, right?
Yeah.
It forces the match to be X long, which I'm not a fan of personally, but. There are at least in even matchups where the teams are more evenly paired. It definitely is probably the better for the spectator side of things. But let's move on and talk about the Overwatch World Cup, which I would imagine will be using the exact competitive mode rule set, and we now know exactly who's going to be playing in it. So for the majority of the world, I guess, well at least the world that matters, NA. Whoop, whoop. Everyone got their teams just like voted for, and then the captains had the captain's pick. But for EU, they had a whole competition. So if you guys haven't been following the Overwatch World Cup, I mean, they actually have an official site for it. It's really pretty. It's all going to be a show match series at BlizzCon where there was voting and the community could be involved in. Now, it's not just pros. I mean, some teams are more or less just pros. But there are definitely, community streamers and YouTubers and so on and so forth that have made themselves onto the team. So NA,
Even Harambe made it.
Harambe made it. Did he really? Is there a player named
Didn't they
Harambe?
Did they force
Team
him to rename?
Benelux.
Did they
Check out
force
Team
him to rename?
Benelux.
Because on Wikipedia, his name is not Harambe, it's Invictus. So it makes me think they made him change it.
That's really sad. Rip
Or,
Harambe.
or switch players, maybe. But yeah, Harambe was like a big sticking point once it was revealed that he was voted in with the most votes.
Look at this. 57% for Siegel. This guy is a legend, obviously. I actually got the opportunity to meet him at PAX, which was a lot
cool.
of fun. He was watching the Heroes finals, actually. He was in the crowd.
Yeah, he's a huge Blizzard game fan. Like first day of closed beta for Overwatch, I just ran into him in someone's chat, and he was like, "Ask Joshy, I love StarCraft. I watch StarCraft all the time." And like he and Huck and Kevin Naki, we've all had like conversations about StarCraft.
That's awesome.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
But I mean, this is all these players, competitive players. So Team America, Team USA going to be very strong. Team Canada, I mean, they got to carry Huck. So
Huck is going to carry them, of course.
yeah. Okay, we'll see. Obviously, no, really, really strong team as well. I actually don't recognize Logan myself.
Logan DeBest. So that's another sticking point. Actually, big drama on that is Surefour, obviously securing all the votes, had 2 captain's picks that he could have picked anybody, and it was widely regarded that Mangachu would be a lock for this because he is just an extremely solid DPS player. But they have so many DPS players already. Surefour decided to bring in Huck and Logan DeBest, and Logan DeBest is not on a pro team. He is a ladder superstar, and I actually remember games with him way back in like November, and I believe he was Reaper and Roadhog almost every single time. Yeah, I see Roadhog actually there on your screen as his #1 played. He is a very scary Roadhog. I will not lie, but he's not a pro player, and there are many other players to pick from still, and so like Surefour's picks brought him a lot of ire from like the competitive community as basically saying, why did you rig it, and now Canada's screwed, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll have to see how the games go. If Logan DeBest ends up like the next Himsy, then screw it, Canada could be totally fine. If Huck ends up just reaping like crazy and hitting all the buds like Death Blossoms, then maybe it'll be okay. But at the moment, people are kind of upset about Canada at the moment.
I mean, I know Huck does scrim. I don't know. I mean, he's not on a pro team or anything, but he does actively. I know I see him at least in the Discord.
He hit like rank 78 or something.
That's
last
pretty good.
season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's a bad pickup. He does take the game seriously, and he was a former Star 2 pro gamer. I think he's retired now. But oh well. Canada, Team Brazil. I mean, we're not going to look at all of these. But
I do just want to point out, if you're on Brazil, Soul Live is a very interesting player as well. Is he actually on that list?
Yeah, he is.
Did he get?
He got
so he got a captain's pick. He didn't get a vote. He actually has been banned from Twitch for view botting in the past.
Oh.
He has been an assumed aim hacker in other games, and in this game, I believe his most played are all hit scan, or there it says, Widow and McCree are 2 of the top 3, and Genji is the other one. So he actually has a over 90% win rate across thousands of games with those 3 characters, which is insane. But if he's really that good and he's only playing against people in Brazil, we really have no idea like how good he is. So this is why I'm very curious to see how Soul Live is going to compete in the Americas. Or there's groups actually for Americas. Some teams actually got automatic berths like America and Canada, but there's 6 teams: Peru, Chile, Argentina, Colombia, Costa Rica, and Mexico, who have to actually still play groups. But that means Brazil has an automatic berth too, it looks like.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's pretty similar to the way they handle the Heroes Global circuit, but it's definitely not the same with every single country having their own event, which is really cool. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of top players scattered around. I mean, we're not going to be seeing like the full Envious as one, but I mean, Sweden's going to be scary like they are in every esport. Like, look at that team; they're going to be monsters.
So Europe has already played like. We already know 11 of the top 12 that then have to play basically single elim against one other top 12 team to go to BlizzCon. So that's kind of interesting. We've got, I'll just go through them real quick. Germany, Baltic and Caspian Sea, Sweden, Turkey, Finland, Russia, Italy, France, Norway, Spain, and Benelux are already top 12. And the last team we're looking for will be either Iceland or Greece, which is also kind of interesting. But then half of those teams will go to BlizzCon that I just named.
Wow.
So they have another group stage? Is that how they're gonna do it?
They only play single elim against one other team. Yeah, so they'll get paired all the group winners against all the group second places, I'm assuming.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Not the format I would have chosen, but
that's what it looks like anyway. That's what this playoff bracket says. But then I'll just launch into the next point about the World Cup, which is that no one has any idea what the hell is actually going on.
Right.
The last tweet about the World Cup from Play Overwatch. Play Overwatch is the only official source on Twitter at all. The last tweet about the World Cup at all was when groups were announced, or actually August 29th, when the teams' rosters were put on. If you go to Overwatch News, there's nothing. I looked through the forums a brief amount. There's nothing. I look at Liquipedia. They actually are missing information because, for example, I heard that China 3-0'd Korea, but I haven't seen that result listed anywhere on the internet, so I have no idea if it's actually true or not. I don't know where I would be able to watch these games, anything. And why is that the case? Why? This is like, you made a huge deal about voting people in and then didn't even link a stream or times or schedule or anything.
I mean, all that says to me is this is just the confirmation that they're not ready to do something like big and with prizing. And like, imagine if this kind of coverage was there when they're putting like $1 million on the line, like that would be the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
And in the end, this is a show match. So I think it's not the end of the world if the qualification process isn't the most globally accessible, as long as Korea and China can understand and follow that. Like, let's just assume that they were able to follow the results of all of that, and it's not super accessible to the rest of the world. It's not good, but it's not the worst thing, at least.
I want to know, man, because China's team is all Invictus. They have 6 Invictus as their squad. And 5 of them are on the same Invictus squad. 1 is on the other one. But it's like, how is China going to lose to anybody with that?
Yeah. We'll see. But what I'm curious is, like, if you guys follow, I mean, I know you guys probably all know, but if you guys viewers follow, Blizzard usually has opening week for BlizzCon, where it's like basically the week prior.
Yeah.
It's an offsite location where matches happen, and that's because there's no way to run every match of a tournament on stage. Back probably 4 years ago, they did a StarCraft 2 event where half the matches were played backstage and like cast on a secondary stream, and that rubbed people.
SOS got to the finals and no one had even seen his
right.
games.
Yeah, and that rubbed people the wrong way. A lot of people were really upset. So ever since then, they started doing opening week. And I mean, last year was at ESL, like the entirety of it. So I was there for Heroes.
The last 2 years, I think, actually maybe even 3 now.
Maybe, yeah.
The pre-weekend at ESL.
But with Overwatch, I mean, are they going to do that? I mean, or are they going to try to combine all?
I think they'll have to.
Yeah,
because in the official rules, it says you have to be available from these dates, and that would be the pre dates. And also, there's way too many teams. They're bringing 6 from Europe alone. And, the guaranteed American team and Canadian team, Brazilian team. I think Australia gets an automatic berth, etc. So there's way too many teams involved to
Australia
not use
gets
that.
an automatic berth, really?
Yeah,
Australia,
there are some teams that do.
They did it basically regionally. They were like, if it doesn't make sense for us to play online matches to decide, we'll just bring them straight in. So Brazil, U.S., Australia, Singapore, I want to say, also one of them. But yeah, they could lose in the pre-weekend and not go to BlizzCon at all.
Right.
Like we're talking.
I mean, they would still get to go, but they wouldn't be on stage.
Right.
They're not going to. Blizzard's not going to be like, yeah, we booked you. We booked all this stuff for you. Time to go home. You're banned from BlizzCon.
Actually, some of the StarCraft players wanted to go home after they lost.
So sad.
Because you essentially play one match in Burbank, and if you lose that match, you don't go and play on stage at BlizzCon. And half the players, maybe not half, maybe like 2 or 3 of them were like, can we just go back to Korea now? We don't really care about BlizzCon. We'd rather get back to training or like our lives.
That makes
instead
it
of sitting
a little bit.
Sitting around as a loser for 7 more days and having to sign autographs and stuff. That's the reason. Basically, we were like, no, we're not paying for your trip home early. Like, we already got you this hotel and these tickets and have a autograph schedule and all that stuff. So you're sticking around.
I
Congrats.
get that, though.
Wallow in misery for 7 days.
Yeah.
Yo, wait, I have a story related to this.
Sure.
So the first time I went to one of the first StarCraft tournaments I went to, I was like a huge Idra fan at the time because who wasn't? Like the guy was BM and he was really good and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I love people that are mean to me.
And so it was a double elimination bracket, and he just dropped from the top bracket to the lower bracket. This was in Providence. I'm like almost certain this was MLG Providence. So I went to this pizza place with me and my buddies, and who shows up but like Idra and Machine, and they're all like sitting around, and I'm like fanboying out. I'm like freaking out. I'm like hyperventilating because right now like one of my role models just walked into this place, and he orders a drink, and we're about to walk out, and I was like, guys, I gotta go talk to Idra. Like this, I've watched this dude nonstop for months and months and months. So I like go up to him, and I'm like, hey, what's going on, Idra? Like I really admire your player. I'm a big fan. You're in the lower bracket now, right? As he's like sitting there trying to like drink away his problems, and like everyone just like stops, like almost like the entire table just stops and looks at me like, "Are you kidding me right now?" I felt like the biggest douche in the entire world, so I didn't say my name or introduce myself. I just walked off embarrassed, and that's one of the first times I was involved in esports.
Yeah, DDK had a story similar to that where I think it was AKM was playing at a Quake tournament, and AKM had just lost the team event. And he was still in the like individual finals coming up later in the day. And DDK met AKM for the first time and said, "Oh, sorry about your loss. Have a safe trip home," or something like that. Before he had actually played the 1v1, that was like his introduction to him too. So it was essentially the same exact thing where it's like, "You lost, bro."
So embarrassed. Yeah. So yeah, that's got to be a rough situation. Like,
I love it.
I wouldn't want to deal with it.
That's exactly what I want to hear. Idra's a character. I miss him.
I miss him too, man. He's like going to school and shit, not playing video games. It's sad times.
Yeah, as soon as EG Heroes died, it was done for him. He just fell off the face of the planet. He doesn't even like interact with the esports community anymore. He's just
not really over it.
He's done.
That'll happen.
No.
There's a lot of people right in our esports generation that has kind of spawned over the last 6 years that are already out of it, back to normal people jobs, and 1 in 4 of us will have to have a normal people job.
I want to fucking see that documentary. Who are the ones that didn't make it? Like, where they are now.
You don't want to see that.
Just an angry help desk guy, you know, like pissed off.
That's like a horror movie series.
I'm actually just creeping on Israel right now, looking at the things he follows on Twitter. He follows University of Illinois, Espresso Royale, some random psychic,
Right,
Kendrick Lamar. Nice.
Let's bring it back. Let's reel it in. So Overwatch World Cup, basically, my opinion on it is, I wanted to watch some games, didn't know where or when they were, could end up finding out results through Wikipedia, not even official sources. I don't know when Blizzard is planning on like actually telling us results or any schedule or anything like that. Even today, like on the r/competitive Overwatch, someone made a thread, when are playoffs? Nobody knows. And so like,
yeah, they'll book the flights before they tell the public anything. Like,
it's ridiculous.
Guaranteed.
It's sad because that would bring so much viewership. Like, the whole point was national pride, right? And then you don't allow people to watch it.
It'll happen, but
it could have happened already, man. They already played fucking 40 series.
I feel like there's a few different perspectives you could look at it. One, logistically, BlizzCon is hell for Blizzard people. I mean, you know that. You know exactly how much work.
Put it in the hands of capable people like myself. I would stream any of these matches not knowing the teams at all if I was given the opportunity.
But then you have to look at it from their perspective of, this is their project, this is their baby. If they give it to someone where they don't have quality control, they can't guarantee the exact level of production, then random number viewer tunes in, sees this as, wow, this is what Blizzard's doing, this is trash, compared to what they would expect it to be, right?
Both outcomes are bad.
So yeah, it's really tough. It's a really hard scenario. Like, even with Bloodlust right now, like, you know, this is like not even anywhere near the scale of what Blizzard is and like how professional Blizzard is as a company. But like, when I'm like saying, who am I going to allow be part of my broadcast? You know, it's my baby, right? I want to be protective of it. So there's definitely that point of view, and there's also just like the saturation of the community. There's already so much to watch. There's so many events happening. And the moment Blizzard sweeps in and starts taking dates for broadcasts on top of like something where, say, Gosu Gamers has planned an event, because Gosu Gamers has events everywhere. Now they're stepping on the toes of their partners that are working hard to make content as well. It's tough. It's really tough. I don't think it's an easy scenario, especially for an exhibition at the end of the day.
Something is better than nothing, in my opinion. And they have ESL ended up casting it, and they said that they volunteered to come in on the weekend to cast it, which is what? Okay,
that's weird. ESL Europe, you mean?
Yeah,
for all
Kaplan
that stuff.
And Uber, and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's good, but I'm just kind of conveying other perspectives from experiences in the past.
It's disappointing. It's disappointing.
I think it'll be epic when it gets down to the actual like BlizzCon ramp up and BlizzCon. I think they'll do a good job, because I think they're just worried about making sure that is like unforgettable.
When was the last like really disappointing BlizzCon? Did we have one? Like
BlizzCon?
recently?
The year we didn't have a BlizzCon?
Okay, all right, disappointing.
Yeah, what was that, Shanghai World Championship year instead?
That was
like
trash, dude. Everyone got food poisoning. The broadcast sucked. It wasn't BlizzCon. It was just, everything about it was bad.
I mean,
I was gonna say we should be able to trust them and know that it's gonna be all right. I thought it was further back than that, but I guess 2013. Like, they have one of those charts like on their walls. It's been 3 years since our last total fuck up.
Yeah, right.
Well, this last BlizzCon was disappointing because they showed new game modes and heroes that never even made it to the actual game. That was disappointing.
You're making the salt just spew out of my veins so hard right now.
Don't
you ever remind me of this.
I got to play arena mode.
I did too. It was great.
Over a year ago.
I'm so mad right now. I get so angry about it.
All right, sorry to I'm wearing the hero shirt. I just noticed. I didn't even realize that. That's funny.
Spo, they've released
installed
arena
Plan.
mode, which is like it's like kind of like ARAM. The game they showed they had this playable, and the game literally like roulettes. So you load in, and it gives you an option of 3 heroes at the start of the game. Everyone on your team, so all 10 players in that match have 3 different heroes they can pick from. They don't have to own that hero. It's just like, boom, there's your options. You build your composition there in the lobby, and it loads you into a really micro, tiny map, like just super tiny map, where you're already level 10. You pick, there's no talents that you choose. You pick your heroic, and you go. And then you just brawl over like collecting like 100 seeds and like the Garden of Terror version. And then the first team to get 100 seeds wins, right? It's just like full on, just like deathmatch.
It had cute little versions of all the map objectives, so that was cool.
It's
it
so
had
fun.
random characters, so you would get a surprise every time. It was like, oh, I'm the tank this time. I can pick either Stitches, Anubarak, or etc. Grab whichever one you want. There's also occasions where it would random you all the same character. So 10 Illidan's, 10 Rhaegars, 10
So funny, dude.
Paragons. Those were the most interesting, fun games of heroes I think I'd ever played, or at least in like recent memory. Was
Yeah.
because
I can
it
imagine
was
playing that at a LAN too.
silly.
Like I can imagine like going
Yeah.
to Jake's place and just being like, "Yo, we're playing this all night."
Yeah, no, like we totally would. And like it's when you think of heroes and you think of like Blizzard fans, and this is the culmination of all Blizzard titles. That's so accessible because you don't have to have knowledge of talents, you don't have to have knowledge of rotations or timings or anything. You just go in and you slam your face on the keyboard and laugh and have a good time. Like so I'm
They didn't add it.
that was disappointing to hear. We just haven't heard anything. They're just like, yeah, this is coming late 2016.
Soon, TM.
They said late this year is when we'd get it. That was like the last thing I had heard. So yes, that was disappointing. I'm really hoping they have something to say about it at BlizzCon this year. Like, okay, yeah, we're done with it. Here it is. Boom. Like, maybe they made it even more amazing. I don't know. They haven't.
Jake's Overwatch wish for BlizzCon is
Let's
arena
reel it
mode
back in
heroes.
again. Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's a lot of
That's
rambling
okay.
today.
I kind of provoked that, so I feel bad.
But in terms of Overwatch, I mean, who knows what they're going to have in store for us. Like last year, Overwatch was super fun. I remember my first time playing Diva. I thought Diva was the worst hero ever made because I just didn't get her. But then I remember my first time playing Genji. I was just like, oh, this is my hotness.
I really liked Mei back then. I think she was OP too.
Oh, she was.
Yeah.
She was awful.
But yeah, they've said actually, maybe not publicly, but they probably won't do like multiple heroes at a time ever again because there's just so much to take in. So my guess would be like a map, a character, and maybe a mode / feature that we would enjoy, but nothing like 3 characters and a map again, because it's just a lot, especially now that the game is launched and you would have to essentially add in so much at one time. It would totally shake up competitive and all that, which could be cool. Actually, never mind. Let's do that.
I would love a new mode. I would love a new mode a lot. I think that announcement would please me.
Yeah.
A mode could
all
be
right,
cool.
What topic are we on now? I don't remember.
We were going to move on to
Heroes?
high bandwidth eventually, I thought.
Okay.
Well, we were talking
What did you
about
want to talk about high bandwidth specifically?
just kind of like where you guys' stances are as to like, is it good enough? So basically they're constantly trying to improve the net code. And, in the last time we had the show, we were talking about how they increased the size of Hanzo's logs, right? And now they've trimmed them back down. Those logs have been shaved a little bit. And with the high bandwidth update, they're trying to make it so that like you don't get hit through a wall kind of deal, right? They're trying to like even things out, make it more fair. But the whole purpose of like the way their netcode is built is if your internet is complete dumpster tier, and then some guys running on like Google Fiber, it's trying to make it so that you're on relatively even terms. But like from your guys' experience, like Spo, when you're playing in these tournaments, are there still moments where it just feels? Is it feeling better to you, or are there moments where it's just like, whoa, that's bullshit. I just headshot that guy. My Zenyatta orb was on him. He should be dead. Like,
Does getting killed by Hanzo feel any better? No.
No, it does not.
No, it does not. The answer, a more serious answer. I mean, that's kind of a loaded question because
that's what we're here for.
Getting
man.
killed by Hanzo is it's you never feel like you actually got outplayed. It's just like, oh, I got killed by Scatter Arrow. Great. Or, oh, this guy's peeked around and the arrow magically hit me in the head. Great.
Doesn't seem like a netcode issue, really.
It's just Hanzo things. I don't like Hanzo. No one likes Hanzo.
I've been playing Hanzo
if you're a Hanzo
exclusively
player,
lately.
shame on you.
Oh man,
He's like the least effort instant kill now.
I'm just surprised he hasn't been removed from the game yet. That would just be better for everybody.
Spo, I've never been more in love with you than right now.
Roadhog's hook is still whack though. Like now it's almost like
Yeah.
a lottery wheel. It's like, all right, I hooked you. Let's see where you end up. In front of me, above me, behind me, in the wall. I don't know if that's happened too much, but I've seen it.
It's pretty good about not hooking you into a wall anymore. They did improve that at least.
There was a while back when like Roadhog was pulling people through him. Did that get fixed entirely?
Yeah,
like way back.
people still end up behind you.
Yeah.
Whatever.
yeah,
It just depends what terrain is between you and the person you hooked.
it's still a little wonky.
So
But
I'm not
overall,
great. I'm not a great programmer by any stretch of the imagination, but it doesn't feel like it would be hard to fix. But I don't want to say that. It's like it's irresponsible of me to say.
I mean, I think a lot of that is to do with the way that it interacts with the high bandwidth mode, like the way that the lag tries to correct X, Y, and Z. It's like telling one computer the target is here, the other computer the target's here, but it's trying to make it look correct on both screens. And that sometimes I would assume, again, this is all my theory behind it, but it just maybe overcompensates and like throws that target way behind you, and it always feels like awful if you're the Roadhog, and it's just like, come on, what happened?
what are you playing right now, Jake? Are you looking around
I'm
maps?
just this just for Spo, and anxious.
Attempts
he's
to trigger
still-
me.
Always my answer for least favorite character. That's always. But yeah, high bandwidth. I actually haven't really noticed a difference, to be honest.
Really? Okay.
I mean, it's hard to actually tell the difference.
I
think,
guess.
in the heat of
Yeah, I
battle.
guess for me, I'm always playing high bandwidth anyway in scrims, so it's.
Oh, that makes sense.
I mean, it does make a difference, but it's just.
also they're generally trying to
seems
match you
to-
up with people around your same like ping anyway, right? Like
Yeah, we have server locations.
Yeah.
One thing I have noticed, Spo, I don't know if you've noticed this as much as well, but Korean players are always playing on the American server with 150 plus ping, and I'm just like, why don't you play on the Korean server? Wouldn't it make much more sense for you specifically in competitive?
we got
try
to
to-
build a wall.
It's
to keep-
no, we
to
don't.
keep the
It's just
Korean players.
it's so strange to me because
Off
like
of our
I don't play in
servers.
Europe all the time because I just feel like it. Like it's just seems dumb. It seems like a bad idea, but it's like 80% of my games have a Korean player in them.
And
It's
we're gonna
so
make them
interesting.
pay for it too, Joshy.
Oh, we're gonna make them pay
this.
for it. All right, that's- thank goodness. But yeah, I find that interesting. Spo, are there tons of Korean players in your higher ranks?
I do see a decent amount of Korean players. Yeah, I wonder if it's one of those
Very
off hours things. I'm not sure.
Well, Korea should never have off hours, right? Because it's like the number one
Right.
thing.
I don't know. Yeah,
That's true.
it does seem a little bit silly.
Oh well, nothing against them. I mean, I have probably even win-loss rate with them. It's just always a question mark to me because they can't communicate. Like very rarely can they actually ever communicate, and that just makes my games harder.
I wonder why it is though. Like, I'm sure every player has their own reason,
Well,
but
I straight up ask sometimes, and occasionally I'll get a response where it's just like, I like America server, and it's like, okay,
these games are free.
maybe they're trying to learn English or something.
Does it have the highest population? Because usually you want to play like where the population's the
Probably.
highest.
Yeah.
You have a higher skill level at the very, very top if you have more people, generally.
It's true. It's just harder because your own ping is higher.
Yeah.
Kinda. Anyway, this topic's gone on too long. I really was just wondering if Spo was also noticing this trend.
Yeah. Overall, though, I mean, the high ping, it's just good that they're continuing to work on the netcode. They're continuing to try to make the experience optimal for just about everyone playing the game. And Hanzo is still the worst thing ever.
Yeah. What else can we talk about? It's been a while since we've had any Sombra clues or anything.
No, what are the ticker stop at? Like 32% or something?
No idea. Yeah.
It stopped, and
But
then
it's interesting. They gave us such like a flurry of stuff, and then there's like nothing after the balance patch.
Blizzard's like that girl that continues to lead you on, and then one day she's just flirting with a different boy. She like moves on. She's doing her own thing, and you just feel crushed, and you don't know what to do with your life. That's kind of what the Sombra clues are. I assume that we're going to get some kind of actual confirmation as to what Sombra is or who Sombra is at BlizzCon, but
It's just female Reaper. It's just gender bend Reaper. They're gonna have alternate genders for every character now. I'm just kidding. I have no idea.
it's possible, man. What's up,
That
X?
actually reminds me. That reminds me back in the day of another Heroes thing where they had the Diablo 3 characters. Sonya, for example, had a male barbarian skin, and it was like, should it be a default female gender and you have to buy a male skin because that doesn't feel
In
right?
D3?
How about no in Heroes?
In Heroes, I see.
Yeah, because it's like in D3 there is no female barbarian Sonya. It's just you play whatever you want. And in Heroes they're like you have to buy the male skin. It's like that's seems strange. But they also had female skin for Nazebo, for example, and stuff like that. And I remember it being a big sticking point in the internal Blizzard threads where it was like, shouldn't we just allow them to pick whichever gender, kind of like Diablo 3? Like as soon as you lock in barbarian, you just click one or the other as you ready up. It seems fine to me. But then they have to make double the assets and blah 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 blah. So
those skins were never released. Actually, they showed us all the images, like in alpha and stuff.
Only internal.
Maybe they're trying to hold it so they can make like a second like D3 barbarian that has a completely different kit for the male hero.
That'd be cool.
Like they
I'd
could
go for
totally
that
do
too.
that because you think of all the different abilities that exist in Diablo. Who knows? But let's talk a little bit about just balance, since we haven't talked about this in a while. I mean, with competitive Overwatch, as it's evolved, every time they patch, we see a rise and fall in heroes. And then obviously with new maps like Eichenwald, we were talking about a little bit of, the Widowmaker on defense becoming a thing. Spoke from your perspective, do you think like that for competitive, the hero pool with the single hero limit is diverse enough, or would you like to see some radical balance changes made?
I think that there's a lot more diversity now than there has been in the past, and I think a big part of that is due to the fact that there is not always. In the past, it's always been a certain support setup, and that's it, right? It's always Mercy Lucio or Lucio Zenyatta, and I'm not even counting the Cancer Comp era. That was a little bit different, but there was a setup for that too. But it was very rigid structure, and a lot of these supports enable other characters to be played. Lucio, for example, will enable characters like McCree and Reaper and Reinhardt to be more effective because they need that extra
boost,
that extra speed and boost to get to places. Whereas other classes may not be as dependent on that, like a Genji or a Tracer, for example. Not that they can't benefit from it, but that's just their And example for Mercy is another example, right? If Pharah is not in the meta, will Mercy still be in the meta? Maybe, maybe not. But or if Mercy's not in the meta, will Pharah still be there? I mean, Pharah's a little bit less useful when she's not being pocketed. So it's the fact that a lot of these supports are being used now across the board, minus Symmetra. Symmetra isn't really being used yet now. And if she is, she's a very niche pick. But all the other 4 supports are being used. I don't want to say equally, because that's not true, but they are being used a decent amount. Like Lucio's the one that's being used the most now. I remember looking at the stats from the tournaments this past weekend. It was like 80 or 85% of the games had teams had picked a Lucio, and it was like 60% for Zenyatta. Mercy was like I want to say like 35 or 40. And then you see a lot of Anna too. I don't remember what Anna's was, but you see a lot of her, especially in the triple support comps. And even aside from that, you still see her in the occasional comp. But there's a lot more diversity there, which allows for a lot more diversity in the actual team comp. So I think this past patch has been really good. Minus the fact that they made, buffs to Hanzo. So aside from that, I think they've actually done a much better job, and it makes the scene a lot more interesting.
But I feel like there's less diversity on tanks than at least that I've seen. Like I still see so much Diva. Like I see Diva like almost
Diva Ryan's
all the
are,
time.
In pro play, like the matches I've been casting the last 2 weeks, I think Diva still comes out similarly in a similar amount as Winston. It really is just whichever one you prefer, and it's really only on areas where you do have to have that verticality. Like Reinhardt is still on every payload map during the payload portions at least. Roadhog is very popular now. He still has instant kill potential. So if you've got a good hook player, Mangachu had some great plays in the Ghost of Gamers NA weekly yesterday. Himsy on Ninjas in Pajamas is like a career Roadhog at this point, hitting ridiculous hooks all the time. So I would say Diva is a little bit less in pro play. I think in comp she is still everywhere because she can punish mistakes a lot, and that's something that Mei also is actually really resurfacing now. Mei actually is back in a big way in pro play also. Shadowburn on FaZe has been busting out some great Mei tactics, and actually there's like a few instances where he survives for minutes at a time just because he's got a great understanding of the defensive cooldowns and stuff like that. But he's actually been doing offensive Mei as well with a little less success, and that's obviously just because her kit makes more sense for like entrenched positions where you can slow people coming into you rather than people can just run away from you. But I'm trying to think. I think Widow has actually popped up once or twice just on Eichenwald, and that is of course part of not so much balance changes, but just the fact that there's a new map. Hanzo is way more prevalent than he used to be. Attacking King's Row, I've seen him on 3 or 4 different squads actually just stay on Hanzo attacking in just because his range is so good. No damage fall off. And Sonic Arrow wall hacks, because Widow is not actually ever around. Hanzo's Sonic Arrows end up being a huge team play aspect as well. So just the fact that he's able to dish out a little bit more damage and has the utility already in his kit makes him useful. And he combos with Graviton Surge incredibly well. Only really Pulse Bomb and Hanzo Dragons really are used anymore. No Barrages, very rarely Death Blossoms. But I think overall, increased Mei and Hanzo, increased support variety, those are all nice things that have come in to at least allow for more options. I don't love Hanzo, but I do like the fact that it's different and it's not used all the time, so it's not like oppressive.
I'm gonna get like Hanzo wallpapers and just stick them all over my house just to like tell all of you guys. He's my bae. Do you think we've talked about a lot of different players like when we relate to heroes that aren't seen as frequently like Mei? Do you think that with the hero pool, the current balance, etc., that there's enough individuality that distinguishes a team and a distinct play style of the team?
The only one that comes to mind right now, well, I guess 2 different teams, one more so than the other. Ninjas in Pajamas have been doing the triple support, triple tank since before this patch. So like over a month now, and they are very settled in their roles. Like they are masters of their characters, whereas other teams are only breaking out triple support, triple tank on certain maps or certain points, and they're just not as comfortable running it. So Ninjas in Pajamas steamroll anyone trying to basically mirror them, and that's something that's really cool to point out. And then Tempo Storm actually just signed a North American squad, which is half of the former Northern Gaming Red and half of Spo's teammates actually from CLG, but they actually are really doing a Protect the Pharah comp, actually, which I find, of course, very, very fun to watch, as Mangachu is a dead-on, really good Pharah player. They've got a great Mercy player as well to keep him alive, and anytime that he's allowed to have space, essentially he combines with B-Dropped a lot on Winston. B-Dropped gets in the faces of McCrees and soldiers and whoever else the defense has brought to try and deal with Pharah, and Pharah just rains down on everything else. So their team coordination the last week has been very Pharah-centric, which is pretty cool. And there's not so many teams yet that have like their specialized compositions. It's more so just they're very skilled individual players, so they're gonna continue playing McCree if they're a really good hit scan player. They're gonna continue playing Reinhardt if they've been playing Reinhardt for a long time. And you're not gonna see so many teams just change up their composition because of balance. They're just really going to stick to their guns. Shadowburn is maybe the one player that actually switched a lot because he was on Genji like 95% of the time, and now that he's worked Mei into his rotation, you're not sure if you're going to get a Genji or a Mei every time you come out of the doors. It's quite a drastic difference. Yeah, exactly, and that's cool.
Okay.
So I don't know if you got more examples or.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're starting to see the teams having their own. Now that the meta is a little bit more open, and maybe it's not as much that it's open, but that certainly it's newer. So teams are still kind of trying to figure out what's good, what's not, how, there are in the past, for example, like you said, NIP ran the triple support before the patch too, so that there are some teams I think more distinct play styles. That's more to their play style. Like they're able to actually still play that. Whether that's going to be the meta or not is debatable. I mean, I think there are counters to it. I just think that teams haven't been teams are still figuring things out. I mean, even in the scrims that we've done in the past couple weeks, teams are trying lots of different things.
Are there any teams that you admire the most, or that you want your team to like emulate the most, like out of the ones that you like scrim against or anything like that? Like what?
I don't know about emulating any team specifically. Certainly, there are things that you can either strategies or things like that you might find interesting that you might want to employ yourself. But I don't think there's any specific team that I'm just like, wow, I really want to be like that team. But I think there are. Each team has its interesting quirks, whether they're playing more aggressively or more defensively or passively, I should say, or
whatever you do, don't tell us who, Spo. Whatever you do, don't say the name.
Yeah, I can't say the name, right? But yeah, there's just like you said, like Josh was pointing out earlier, that NIP has their own kind of thing. Energy likes playing a lot of the triple tank, triple support as well. Not that Seagull doesn't play Genji or anything like that. There are certainly times where he's playing he's on that, but
and Pooks is the only Symmetra in the last month.
Yeah. So there's some interesting things out there, and certainly like you said, Mangachu, they've been playing. They've done a little bit of the triple tank stuff too, but obviously they've been playing a lot more Pharah too because Mangachu is a great Pharah player. But I think a lot of the comps that these teams run are also just designed around what classes they play. Like there's a reason that teams allow like that. For example, FaZe would allow Shadowburn to play Genji because he's a phenomenal Genji player. Like that's teams should be playing to their strengths. If they're good at something, teams should be trying to play around that.
Right.
And the meta now allows that. I would say in its current state allows that to actually happen. Since more classes seem viable, there's more supports that allows you to support these classes in the way that you would want to.
Yeah, kudos to Blizzard for giving us enough new pieces, basically, to keep the game interesting.
I would say that the patch isn't without its flaws, though. I think that Ana boost does need to be looked at.
Yeah, just ult time to actually generate an ult.
While you're Ana boosted, I don't think that person should be getting ult charge. So that's my thoughts on it.
It's like doubling up.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, it wouldn't kill the hero or anything. I mean, it does seem pretty strong. It's just
does give Reinhardt Earthshatter very quickly.
Yeah.
Very, very quickly, yes.
What, like 3 or 4 swings, and he's pretty much.
I wonder. You should just nano boost Zarya every time, then get Gravs like twice as often. Huh.
That would be crazy.
I'd not even thought about that. Interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah. No, it's definitely interesting to see how that has unfolded because initially when we were talking about that ultimate when Ana was new into the game, I think we were all just kind of like, yeah, it feels kind of suboptimal, but when you think about the other variables of helping feed that target and get them in there with their ult, it definitely is very powerful as a kit. And I think the other cool thing about just the overarching story with Overwatch is they've managed to basically take TF2, give it a ton of heroes, put their own spin on it, but then almost make the game feel like a MOBA too, right? It does have that diversity. It does have that that person that is known for X, Y, and Z. And if they continue adding heroes, like let's say in 2017 we get 6 heroes, that's not a ton, but it's digestible, and that's going to. We'll look at this game a year from now and say it's a completely different title. Like even just Sombra. If Sombra is what we have theory crafted, a hero that can either stealth themselves or stealth allies, like how does that affect the game? Do you suddenly need Widowmaker? Does this bring in a Widowmaker centric meta where you can see them in the shadows? Does this bring in heroes that just kind of spray and pray and try to find cloak targets? Like who knows how the mechanic will work? But it's, one hero can change the game dramatically. But I guess we'll find out soon enough. maybe.
All right.
Soon TM.
Any last feelings on this most recent balance patch? It has been out for about, I don't know, 11 days now, but we haven't had a show since then. So
True.
we talked about Hanzo and Mei coming back a little bit more, Farah actually coming back a little bit more because of Mercy. Zen is scaled down a bit more. Lucio has been not a 90% plus pick anymore just because Speed Boost is like kind of wet noodle feeling now, where it used to actually be, hard engage. I think that's about it for me. Competitive has been. Oh, we could talk about like the new competitive rank system and stuff like that if you want.
Sure.
Basically,
that sounds good.
Placement matches still the
You know what
same.
I
You play
noticed?
10 placements. Let's go ahead.
You know what I noticed? And I don't know that they ever said it. When you go down, after you lose a match, it doesn't actually go down your rank. It just shows what your new number is. But when you win a match, it actually climbs up and shows you like the numbers going one by one all the way up.
They don't
Like a
want
small
you feel,
little-
They don't want you feeling bad, man.
Yeah.
Well, you also can't lose a division.
Yeah.
So like I placed at 2650, which I was like, I don't know how I got so low compared to last season, and my placements went fine, but whatever. Lost 7 games in a row. 2650 lost 7 games in a row in solo queue. So I went into the 2400s, and I was like, should I have changed division at some point by now from like
You would be gold at that
I guess
point.
plat to gold, and it never changed my symbol. So I was like, I don't know where the divisions are anymore. Like I might just be wrong.
It would
But I
correct you
got
for
back
the
up.
next season, but you cannot drop mid-season.
Yeah,
So going into
except out of
season
Masters,
3,
apparently.
going into season 3, if you're 2400, you'll be plat, right? That's where you'll land. But if you start a season as Masters, you will be at least Masters when that season ends. But when the next season starts, you could be down to plat if you were that booty butt cheeks that season.
We still have to play placements again too, which
Yeah.
is I've heard like Admirable, for example, Hearthstone and Overwatch caster Admirable played his placements and went 7-3 and got placed at 3K, and his rating last season was lower than mine. So I was like, what the hell? First of all, I have no idea how that happened. But then he he said he had teammates go 10-0 and get like 2600. So
It's so
I don't
weird.
know.
I
10-0 at that point, you should be hitting 3K. Like
You'd think, but
Every time somebody finishes their placement matches, there's a Blizzard employee literally just like rolling a dice.
Yeah, spinning
like
wheel.
types it in.
They
I
have, like,
love
10
their
different-
coin flips.
Yeah, but who knows? And like, I'm just trying to think of like if there anything else to add about the new ranking system. But honestly, it feels very similar to what it used to, but with no coin flips, it actually does feel better. I feel like I'm okay with the results of my game more often. I have had 10 draws in my under 100 games, so over 10% of my games have been draws. I don't know if that's intended or not, or like everyone's experience, but every assault map, I feel like Anubis is just a draw machine every single time. We either both full hold A or both full hold B, like every single time on assault maps.
Pumping out drawings like Bob Ross.
Yeah, basically.
Jesus. Okay. Well, obviously the new ranking. I think we talked about this last time when they had announced it. I love the fact that you can now say I'm Diamond. Quality of life just for the social elements in the real world. Oh, you play Overwatch? Cool. Do you play competitive? Yes, I'm a Diamond player. It's just nice to be able to say I'm a Diamond player. Not I'm a rank 62, or at least I was until last night where I got really salty and I dropped down to 60 and you feel bad about it, right? It's a little bit, nicer for that quality of life. And again, the skill rating decay will exist. That's another nice thing they've implemented, where if you're not playing and you're sitting in that top players in Diamond Master or Grandmaster, you're actually going to get decay. So if you want to be a top level player, you actually have this incentive to continue to log in and play your matches. Otherwise, you're going to be penalized, and you're going to slowly drop in your rating, which is at the top of the ladder should be those tryhards. That's what it's designed for. So it's a good thing.
I think there was like an unintended consequence where that because you can actually see your rating going up and down like constantly as opposed to having any leeway with just the bar. I think it's led to people getting more tryhard actually, and it makes people I've had more toxic people in my 10 placement matches than I think I ever saw across the board when I was playing before. I don't know what it is, but it brought out so much hatred in people.
Well,
it's weird to me because you get like I said, I placed and lost 7 straight. So I've already been in a range of 400 or 500 different SR just this season in my first 100 games. And I feel like it's not dividing skill at all. at this point. There's a huge chunk of 2300 to like 3K where they're all generally the same, and it's just like a huge treadmill for everybody trying to solo or duo. But
that'll change over time too.
Hopefully, but seasons are only 3 months, and then you got another week break.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Does it have enough time to actually balance out and like put everybody in their spot?
Well, that's
the
a
bell curve is different now.
Weird.
I think they'll figure it out over time. It's tough. The start of the season, I think, is definitely going to feel bad, especially since they just changed the system a little bit. They're making some adjustments. You know, the game is still very young. I have faith that it will work in the long run. But I definitely feel where you're coming from. Like right now, especially like those early placement matches. I'm curious, Unctuous, were they like the first week or the first couple of days of season 2?
No, I played most of my placement matches in the past like probably 4 days, 5 days.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
That's right. You were in Florida. That's right.
Yeah. But I mean, people were real angry all the time. Like
Salt City.
And the thing was, they were also more willing to join the voice chat, like of their own accord, as opposed to just sticking in their tiny groups. They were more willing to like join voice chat, not to berate you initially, to actually act like a team initially, which is not something that I saw in last season. But now they're both more willing to join and more willing to berate you and make you feel like a piece of shit.
Well, I mean, maybe you deserved it, Unctuous.
Maybe it makes me yell more too. Like if you come across me and I yell at you, it's not you, it's me. You know. Sorry,
Unctuous just wants to know why you aren't playing as Hanzo. Like,
oh,
that's really all he's asking for. I mean, let's actually talk about Hanzo. It's one of the balance changes in this patch. Now that we've actually had it in there, his projectiles move faster. His arrow size has been reduced, but he has less movement speed reduction while holding his arrow. So he's a little bit more mobile, and his arrows come quicker. Is the reduction of his arrow size back to what it used to be, or I guess you know what I mean? Is it like at least better than the massive hitbox that if it's like over your shoulder you get a headshot?
I think just the fact that he can machine gun now makes it still infuriating because he can miss twice as much still and actually kill you.
That's fair.
If you can compare any crime to murder and you're going to say that it's better than murder, right? So like, is it better now? Yeah, but it's still terrible. In my opinion.
I love how much you hate him. I really do.
Different murder method, yeah.
I feel like they're like, obviously you guys know my thoughts on Hanzo, but I just think that this kit's an abomination and that has no place in the game. So I think that while it's admirable that they're trying to fix Hanzo, I just don't think it's.
It feels a little bit like, from a design perspective, it feels a little bit like certain things in StarCraft 2, where you're like, yeah, you can try to balance this, but it's actually just a design flaw that's making the game not fun.
Swarm hosts,
that's what it. Yeah. That's
Wait,
what like.
So what if they made it so that he could double jump, and every time he double jumped, he scatter shot?
Wow, that sounds like a good idea.
What if? Yeah. That is a good way to get everyone to uninstall instantly.
All right, Blizzard, make that at least a brawl. That sounds really fun to me. I love Hanzo. I love the cheese.
Give everyone
I'm all
double
about
jumps
it.
in the brawl.
I'm that guy that plays Chivalry and just plays Archer. And we have LAN parties for Chivalry, and all of my friends, including Unctuous, rage. Every time I headshot someone, they rage. So Hanzo is like, oh, he's my spirit animal. I mean, the thought of all you guys just getting salty when I headshot you, it's what fuels my Hanzo play. So
I think that's what fuels every Hanzo.
Oh,
think about this. When was last time you died to a Hanzo and said, "Oh yeah, that was reasonable. I could have done something about that," or "Oh yeah, that felt fair. That felt like a good thing."
I know. It's such a good feeling when I get those just around the corner. I just spray and pray, and I get that kill on Lucio. I can just feel his anguish.
Winston still kills Hanzo.
That's true.
As fast as he kills Widows. So I still just always, if there's a Hanzo or a Widow on the other team, I always just switch to Winston.
Still has the opportunity to scatter shot you when you land, and
Hanzo can actually kill you where Widow really can't. it is a problem. But you still zap him most of the time, and then try to force him to switch.
Fair enough. Diva defense matrix changes. Just a little bit of downtime after being activated. You have it'll begin regenerating after 1 second delay. So her defense matrix, is it more manageable, or does it still feel like it's always up in your guys' opinion?
I think it's fine.
Good now. Yeah.
Okay.
It was always up. Now it's good. Good change.
Genji nerfs still alive after a few weeks. Think good enough, or did it hurt him a little bit more than you guys thought it would?
No, he still gets used. I still like him where he's at now.
I think I would have liked to seen a change in the radius of not the radius of reflect, but it seems like it's a little bit bigger than it should be. But I think I think Genji's in a good place though. I think the alt change was necessary to bring it more in line with, for example, Zenyatta's Transcendence. I think 8 seconds is a little bit too long. I think one of the things that the Genji's players have been really trying to get used to is the fact that you can't, dash and melee at the same time.
Right.
So it's a little bit just something to get used to, I guess. Kind of like how Widow players used to be able to jump and do the scope unscope thing, and now they have to be. It's just one of those quality of life changes, I guess. I'm not sure.
The quality of everybody else's life.
Right. Yeah. The quality of everybody else's life goes up, but it's just something players are going to have to get used to.
Going down the list, we were talking about Mei, kind of, especially on Eichenwald, very, very powerful hero. Is enough of that just because of the big power-up they've given Blizzard, where it pierces barriers and the radius is monster now?
It is, because it's essentially another Graviton Surge or Earth Shatter, where it's like you're guaranteed to hit a lot of people with it. And I've got play the match a couple times with Mei, just happening to freeze 3 people and then headshot. It's very effective. And like essentially, if I'm defending and someone on my team has Blizzard, or I'm playing Mei and I have Blizzard, I basically know that we're going to hold another time at least, because even if you only get 1 kill with the Blizzard, guaranteed kills are hard to come by. Like even Deadeye, for example, McCree can't get guaranteed kills with Deadeye. So having Blizzard just cover everything and ensure that you're going to have a little bit of success is really nice. And just the fact that she can stall forever, like
it's true. Walls and blocks.
Yeah, Anubis Point B comes to mind, where it's like you can wall yourself into a corner, and then once the wall goes down, freeze yourself in the corner. You only have to be alive for 2 more seconds before you get another wall. Like you can actually burn so much time and allow your team to get back on the point. She's really invaluable there on assault maps now.
Do you feel like McCree is where he should be? We didn't mention him at all today.
Yeah, Deadeye not being a savable ult anymore has balanced him a lot. I think completely.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. In a good place. He's so prevalent just because his kit's really good. Flashbang is
people
amazing.
With good aim still should play McCree, because he still is going to put out the most damage.
Yeah, but just having that free zone and then retaining 50% meter, like it just was stupid useful. Like no other hero had that kind of utility in the game. So
I also we might as well point out that any ults that get used don't retain charge like they used to. So like Death Blossom, 1 second after, if he dies 1 second after using it, he doesn't save like 80%. Yeah,
which is
that actually makes a big difference.
But it's also gives you like more merit towards McCree, right? Because flashbang, suddenly if you can throw that flashbang out and interrupt something like a Death Blossom, you're eating that Death Blossom. You can just basically force someone to waste it, which is a playmaker thing, right? That's like a big, like cool thing you can do to not only stop it right then and there, but like you stop a lot of momentum on that team, which is really, it's cool. So speaking of just like, we're talking about McCree, what about 76? They've, the bullet spread recovery is there. They almost want him to be like the Halo hero as like fully fleshed out, right? Initially 76 was like, yeah, this is Call of Duty, but now he's got the BR from Halo 3 where he's like, brah, brah, brah. Is he good enough? Is the bullet spread recovery and the whole GAT style, or should they just commit and give him a BR at this point?
I don't know if he's good enough. I don't think I see him nearly as much as I used to. I don't know why you would play him, or why you would choose him over somebody like McCree if you could get away with it, or like.
If you're on McCree and you're having a tough time because of like barriers and stuff, that's the only time that I think I would switch to Soldier, or you need a little bit more range. Like if you're McCree up close and personal is still best because of flash and fan and stuff like that. But if you're getting just wiped as McCree or their tank is on you way too much, you can switch to soldier and guarantee like some sustained damage. Like if your team is just low on damage overall, soldier can be good just to be able to finish off single targets. It's if your McCree's missing too much, basically, is the time you switch to soldier.
You're almost saying that like it's on the other team to force you to switch away from McCree. Like McCree's going to be always the better option.
Soldier's almost never like the starting option, I think.
Feels bad, man.
Occasionally you'll see people swap to have a soldier alongside the McCree for a double hit scan. I think you see that on occasion. It can be sometimes to force Pharah players to swap off, because you have the Zenyatta Discord plus double hit scan equals super dead Pharah. But I mean, again, it's not something where you're gonna be like, oh wow, I just wish we had this soldier over McCree. It's like McCree he just has a better kit. That's what it comes down to.
Soldier can I want to say on Control, Sanctum, for example, on Nepal, Soldier could be good because he does provide range damage, focus damage, and that little group heal. So Reinhardt Soldier could work out there, and a couple other places similar to that, like Numbani A defense is kind of the only other times we see him is if there's ledges or large gaps that you have to shoot across is basically it.
You'll see him in triple DPS comps too. That's the other place you'll see him.
And they're just rare now, honestly. Sustain is so good with tanks and supports right now.
Yep.
It's sad, man. We're all Cowboys now.
He's still the fallback. He's still a fallback choice for people with less good aim. Yeah. Honestly.
Like me. That's why I play him. Well, that's funny. What about Zenyatta? The Orb of Discord change? I mean, Zen was the god, and Lucio's retaken his throne. But does he feel right? Like even Zen players like you, Spo, were like, it's kind of a little bit too good with, the massive damage amp.
I've been asking for that change for a while, honestly, even though I play Zen. I was like, it's still 50% is still really good. And once with the 2 HP buff, I was like, there's no way people aren't going to play this. The reason he wasn't played before was because he had 150 HP. He could be one shot by Widow. So many different things that were meta. So it was just like, okay, well, why are you playing this hero? But with the 200 HP change and obviously the other quality of life changes that he got, it was a no-brainer to pick Zenyatta as the second support. So I think it's definitely a good place. It matches the 30% damage boost that Mercy gets. That was one of the things too. Is back when she got when her damage boost used to be 50%, and then Discord used to be 50%, and then because it was Mercy plus Widow, boosted Widow getting just one-shotting, half the cast with body shots, it was a little bit strong. So they tuned that down to 30%, but they never tuned down Discord. And then they finally done it. So I think that was good on them.
Somebody in chat actually asks, this is going back to 76. I think we all agree on the Zenyatta topics that Discord's good now. But 76, is there any theorycraft you guys would have to how to bring him up to the level of McCree?
Less burst fire or spread. It's just weird now.
Yeah.
It used to be in beta, you would just point, drag, track, kill. Now it's you have to keep in mind this weird spread or you're just doing no damage, and it's really hard to actually tell where your bullets are going even at super long range. So you have to I don't know. He's the only character where it feels bad to just hold down his left click, right? Because the spread is so stupid. I don't know why they designed him like that when he used to just be, okay, I know that I'm tracking someone, I'm going to be able to kill them. It's too much RNG basically for his long range shots, and that's what he's most effective at over other characters. So it just feels awkward to play him for me anyway.
Yeah.
I think one way or another, the only way that you get him being used again is to up his DPS, and there's a million different ways to do that, right? You can do what Josh is saying and make his shots more reliable at longer ranges. Or, do you think it would be okay just to bring up the amount of damage that he does at longer ranges as opposed to having as much drop off?
It's just strange because right now, if you shoot 12 bullets, they could go 12 different directions. So if the one that hits does slightly more damage, that's not really better. I really do think it should be the
style, where the spread is always the same. CSGO is interesting because you have a fixed spread no matter what, but it still takes skill to track that while you're shooting.
Yeah, just something to make his shots more reliable at range, because that is his strength. Helix Rocket is basically the best tool that he has, because you know exactly where it's going to land and exactly how much damage it's going to do into a Earth Shatter or a Graviton Surge or something like that. But right now, just he's not. His strength is supposed to be consistency at range, and it's not what it used to be. So I would tighten the spread. Damage could also come up, but then is he too strong at closer range?
Right,
That's
right.
the issue
what
with
I'm
that.
worried about. He'd become like a ridiculous tank buster. I think if he raises just the damage per bullet, close range, is just shred through divas and whomever he gets to jump on. And I'm thinking more for that, not competitive, but for low level play. Like he would just melt people. Okay, well that's a cool idea. Who knows? I mean, obviously they've adjusted the way that the spread functions on his gun like at least 4 or 5 times between beta and launch, and he's gone up and down throughout the meta as a result. Helix Rocket still super powerful, as you mentioned. The noob tube will always be good, I'd imagine, but that's 76. Well, Josh, I know you're getting ready to launch up your stream, and we're about to wrap up this episode. So let's go on over to the shout-outs and Uncle Unctious. I know you hate that name, so I'll always call you it.
It's not a problem. No major shout-outs. Big shout-out to, I guess, actually, I'm going to say shout-out to my family, because, like, so my grandmother just passed away. It's why I was in Florida not too long ago. It was the family emergency that came up, so just made me realize, it's all right, man. She was old. But it's just cool to remember that, I got family out there that's super supportive, and that in tough times they came out through and all support each other, and that together we mourned and we moved on. So I think that's pretty dope, and I wanted to say that. If you want to see more of me, I stream every once in a while. I've been streaming a precision platformer called N++. You can see me on Tuesdays on Ryuzilla's channel at 9 p.m.
Are you still like top of the world of N++?
Yeah, for a few levels. So they do individual level runs that you can like be on the leaderboards for. So I've been grinding a few of those out. I think I have like 4 right now, maybe.
World records, nice.
At least on PC. They separate the PS4 from the PC, and there's no way for us to tell what the PS4 times are. And that game's been out for a year on there, so I'm sure they're probably more fine-tuned. But yeah, no, I have a few global rank zeros.
Very cool, man.
Yeah, so you can check that out. I'll probably be streaming some Overwatch coming up too. Shout out to the dudes for having me on again. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, man.
Awesome, dude. Spo?
All right. I'll just plug my channels, I guess. You can follow me on Twitter and YouTube on Team Spo, and you can also follow me on Twitch at Spo TV. I also be releasing the second part of the map callouts and all that stuff, and some updates to the old ones somewhere around the end of this month, beginning of next month. So stay tuned for those.
Do you know where they're going to be hosted?
That's actually one of the things that's up for debate. I'm not sure yet. I might see if I can get them on one of the bigger sites or something like that. I don't know. I'm really not sure.
Gosu Gamers, he's looking at you.
Yeah, maybe Gosu, maybe Overbuff, maybe something like that. Some content site that wants to host them. Yeah, something like that.
Awesome, man. Joshi.
Well, I think I'm casting Lenovo Cup tomorrow, starting at 9 a.m. Pacific. These early call times for online EU events, man. It's brutal. But yeah, I'll be casting tomorrow. That's Gosu TV _OW on Twitch. Gosu Gamers changed their channel name to that. Much more difficult name. But that's where that'll be. And I just started my stream now, so I will be playing some comp for the next few hours. I'm going to take a short break and go buy some snacks and stuff, but I'm going to stream for the rest of the evening, so you guys can join me, twitch.tv/AskJoshi. But otherwise, yeah, just lots of Overwatch, making streams and YouTube videos and casting whenever I can.
Very cool. Well, since this is our first episode in a while, obviously we're looking to get TownHall Overwatch back on track to be a once-a-week show. Life has been a little bit chaotic. I'm getting married in 3 weeks. I just launched a new esports production company called Arcane 8. You can learn more at arcane8.com, and the VODs for TownHall Overwatch moving forward will be on youtube.com/arcane8. That means you're going to see a lot of cool stuff moving forward. We've got a really cool Heroes of the Storm tournament coming up next weekend where we're flying out a bunch of people, and we're going to look to do the same exact thing for a brand new Overwatch brand, which is pretty much built. It's just a matter of getting sponsors on board and helping us make it a reality. But that's all in the near future because I want to do some really, really fun things for the Overwatch community. Just, a different vibe, right? Just really, really community driven. Maybe we will do weird things like the May challenge, as you mentioned, where you put that ice wall between two McCrees and they have stuff that's a little bit more, I guess,
silly,
almost casual and fun. Yeah. But that's definitely in the very near future. So do me a huge favor, follow Arcane8_GG on Twitter and Arcane8 on YouTube. But that's going to do it for us.
Come hang out with us for Bloodlust next week.
Oh, yeah, next week, and we'll be live all weekend long. But I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks for tuning in to episode number 17, and we'll be back with episode 18 very soon. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.